Hi guys, I'm Lady Yoga with Enlighten Up TV, and I'm here with the wonderful William Duprey, his wife Susan Duprey, and Mela Duprey. They are Team Duprey, fabulous, fabulous yogis. And we're here to talk about yoga and how to make yoga accessible to every person at any time of the day. So first I just want to talk to Will and Susan about their practice a little bit. They were both yogis before they met. They're still yogis now. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
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 How was your practice before you guys met, and how did it change when you guys got together?
How was the practice before? I mean, I think that the practice prior, when you're single, let's say, or working on your own thing, is such an individual thing. Like, we tend to look at our practice as being like, this is my practice, and if I didn't meditate today, then I'm having a really terrible day.
Right.
Or I didn't do this and do this and this, all these little, things that you're crossing off, which is very valid. I mean, you spend a lot of time, like, going inward and self-reflection and all this stuff, but when you start to meet one another and you have other people that are in your life, it can really change. It can be a totally different thing.
Yeah.
Patience.
And how about for you, Miss Susan? Patience. That's a good word.
Yeah.
Boba.
What was great about us is that we had our own practices beforehand. So when we came together, it was kind of, it was a really amazing opportunity to just begin to share that and begin a dialogue and share, an energetic dialogue.
Yeah.
Playing around with us waking up and just doing our own practices in the morning and then coming together and seeing what happens. And this is what happened.
Yeah. Now, yoga, in whatever it means to you, how would you try to encourage people that are used to going, that are used to going to the studio and doing a few down dogs? How would you recommend to those people to bring yoga into their everyday life?
I think a studio is a great place to learn yoga in a lot of ways. It does give you this place that's isolated from a lot of outside noises and time to practice with like-minded people. I think one of the things that we run into, and this is, and no offense to any studio at all, it's just kind of the way that things have maturated in our yoga world, is that if there's something that you really find within that practice or within whatever practice, is try to manipulate it at home so that you're able to practice that. I remember when I first started taking yoga classes, and at first it was practicing asana. So I bought a mat, brought the mat home, and started to try to remember to replicate as much as I could from the classes that I was doing, so that I had something that I could do when I couldn't go to the studio, or if I was traveling or wherever I was, that would take me 20 or 30 minutes. And it may have been just like hacking up little pieces of the posture, but what it did for me was it allowed me to really feel what it felt like on my own without the other bodies. And I know that there's, contradictory information, like, you should look for a teacher and the teacher should help you, but that for me came later. That for me came when I became really interested in the whole mind frame and in looking at the science of it or the philosophy of yoga. That's what that self-inquiry, that personal one-to-one practice with myself, led me to actually seek out a teacher and want to study with them one-to-one later on. So I think that for me it was really developing a personal relationship, which I, felt a closeness to a yoga community, but not as much as I felt when I was doing my own, sadhana and or spiritual / morning practice, or whatever you want to call it, and that the way that was affecting me. And it began to affect me in such a way where other people began to take notice. And, so it was very potent. It was a very powerful thing.
It's quite an evolution. And speaking of evolution, we wanted to talk a little bit about Mela and how she has changed your yoga practice and how she has been yoga for you. So can you tell us a little bit about having a kid and how that changes your yoga?
Well, having a child, I think, is a yoga practice in itself, like just the birthing process alone.
Wow.
It just really, I think what like a strong spiritual practice or any type of practice does is it brings all of the things that you may not necessarily enjoy about yourself to the surface.
Right.
And, some of them are more severe and not severe. And they bring about like a requirement for change or requirement for movement.
Does her root chakra need checking?
No, her chakras are pretty balanced.
How has she been a great teacher for you? What? She's gonna be the best, the newest and greatest yoga teacher
I
You're gonna be
think
doing yoga journal conferences soon.
I think there's a concept that when we do a spiritual practice, it's all about like getting to some place that we're not,
Right.
rather than realizing like we're in a place that we already are, and that when we strip away all of this fabric that's like leading us to question how well we are or where we're supposed to be,
Right.
it's really hard to find out where you are now. Like when you go to the mall or whatever, it has a little dot that says you are here, and you have to find out where you are in order to go to where you're going.
Really good point.
And so like when spending time with her, you just realize like as a human being, there is like a perfection in being and seeing where you are at this particular moment.
Yeah.
And we tend to use our mind so powerfully to think that we're in a place where we're not a lot of times. It's not to say we don't have negative experiences, or we all do up and down and get into some really good places and really bad places, but I think there's a general fabric of who we are that's always there.
Right.
Like in our in our own nature, and it's been there since birth, or the idea of wanting to be born.
Yeah.
So I think that's my reminder from her all the time, is that things are pretty perfect. It's really our perception of how they could be better that makes things less than perfect, or how things are really bad that makes them seem less than perfect.
Yeah.
It's not to say that we're not going to go through suffering or life and death and all these things that we're running into, but yeah, she's a pretty constant reminder that things are pretty smooth.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Life is sweet.
Is there anything that you might be able to share with the people who are watching? Just something, whether it's physical or breathing or a meditation technique that you could really bring into your everyday?
Yeah, I've always been into breathing and meditating since a child, actually. I saw monks meditating on like PBS or something like that, and
Right.
started doing that
Oh,
when
I
I was
saw
a
that
little kid.
show.
I was like, so one really simple meditation technique, and it's actually considered a form of yoga in the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, is just to watch the breath in its normal state, and you watch it about 12 finger lengths, or a foot almost, in front of your nose.
Okay.
And then just watching it move on inhalation through the nose, through the palate, down the throat, to the heart. And then on the reverse, exhaling it from the heart, up the throat, through the palate, out the nose, and back to where it came from. So these 2 points are your constant focus, the heart and outside of the nose, but you're drawing the breath from out to in and from in to out, and you continually just watch that.
Yeah, that's
So-
really simple. I just feel relaxed just doing that, and it's like, you don't even have to be flexible to be able to kind of get into that.
Right, you just need your breath.
You can do it in traffic, you can do it online at Starbucks.
Yeah, if you're doing it in traffic, just don't close your eyes, because that's, if you're kind of really focusing, it's not that helpful, but yeah.
Well, thank you guys, all of you guys, for spending your time with me today and sharing yoga with everybody.
Thank you.
If we want to find out more about you, William Duprey is an international teacher. He teaches teachers, and he's all over the globe. So if you want to find more about him,
WillDupreeYoga.com. And I'm on Twitter and Facebook and all that fun stuff too, under the same title.
thank you guys so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, LA Yoga Magazine, for this opportunity. I'm Lady Yoga Superhero. I also have a monthly comic strip in LA Yoga Magazine, so you can check that out at LadyYogaSuperhero.com or LAYogaMagazine.com. Thank you guys so much for
Thank
watching.
you.
Enlighten up.
Yeah.
She's like, we're still rolling. Some more.
Blah, blah.
Babies are so funny looking without teeth.
Yeah.
Totally.